Welcome everyone to the October 2021 Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion webinar for the California Mortgage Bankers Association. To kick off today's presentation, I'd like to welcome Ian Rambaran, our chair for our DE&I Committee. Ian, take it away.
Hi, good morning, and thank you, Susan. It's great to be here, and thank you for everyone for joining us. As you know, the DE&I Committee is composed of two subcommittees. The first is the Education Committee, and the other is the Outreach Committee. We previously had a webinar that was hosted by the Educational Subcommittee, and that webinar is posted on the CMBA's website. And I think that was an excellent presentation that helps frame the issue that we're facing in the DE&I space. Today, we're going to hear from the other component of the DE&I Committee, which is the Outreach Subcommittee, which is run by Rosalind Hardy. The purpose of the subcommittee is to highlight what it is that our members are doing in the community and for themselves. And today, we have speakers that are going to talk about their experiences in those two arenas. And what I would like the members and the audience participants and whoever to take away from this event is that there is a way to do it. There's no structured way to do it. It is what works for you and how you can adapt to make it better for everybody else. We're going to have the ability to ask questions, and you can post questions into the chat feature on the GoToWebinar link. But you can also reach out to Susan, Rosalind, or me if you have some follow-up questions or you want to formulate some ideas on what you can do to improve or get started your DE&I program. Thank you for spending time with us today, and with that, I'll turn it over to Rosalind Hardy.
Good morning, everyone. I am so happy that you all decided to join us this morning for our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee webinar, where we're going to be spotlighting some of the industry players that we have that are actually working this issue within their company for us all to learn and to be inspired, hopefully, as we move forward with our own individual initiatives and programs in our companies. So our first speaker that I am so happy to introduce you to is Helen S. Wilson. Helen is an accomplished human resources executive in the areas of organizational development, talent acquisition, workforce development, change management, and optimization of HR overflow systems and processes. She has a progressive track record of successful partnering with business leaders on the re-engineering of organizations while ensuring alignment of talent strategies with business objectives. Helen currently serves as the Senior Vice President of Human Resources at Caliber Home Loans, where she leads the ongoing development of their human resource capabilities through investment in talent, the expansion of HR programs, and increased efficiencies. Recently, Helen was also named as the head of corporate social responsibility. A key component of her role is to lead and champion Caliber's enterprise diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy through collaborative engagement with C-suite executives, business leaders, HR colleagues, employee resource groups, communication, and marketing teams. And on that note, I am happy to introduce you to Helen Wilson. Helen?
Thank you, Rosalind. Can you guys hear me okay? Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Rosalind, for the wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. As Rosalind mentioned, my name is Helen Wilson. I work with Caliber Home Loans. I'm the SVP of Human Resources and Head of Corporate Social Responsibility. I'd like to thank Rosalind, Susan, this organization, the California MBA, and specifically the DE&I committee members for the opportunity to join your forum today. I'm looking forward to sharing a snapshot of how we at Caliber Home Loans and now Newrez Mortgage have developed, curated, and nurtured the DE&I programs and investments we've made within our company. It's an exciting time for us. I'm pleased to share both lessons learned and also what we've accomplished with our team. And I apologize, I don't seem to be able to advance the slide to get to the next page.
Helen, I can do that for you if you just want to say next slide. You should be able to,
Terrific.
but it doesn't seem like it's cooperating, so my apologies. I will.
All right.
I'll get you started here.
Great. Well, we can go to the next slide, and I'll begin by sharing that Caliber Home Loans was acquired by New Residential Investment Corp back in August of this year. And together as a combined company, we are a leading originator and servicer within the industry. The opportunity that was created through this acquisition brought together two mortgage companies in Newrez and Caliber Home Loans. And we have complementary strengths. These strengths enable our ability to not only compete within the mortgage market, but has also enabled our ability to accelerate our growth goals and serve our customers more effectively. The transaction has really created some great opportunities for our employees. We are really looking forward to be uniting our teams as we share the same mission. We're committed to the same shared values, and this includes our commitment to diversity, inclusion, and equity. If you go to the next slide, we're in the process of launching a unified strategy and framework for corporate social responsibility, or CSR. And our CSR strategy is really organized around a core framework that we are using to really align our programs, our investments, and our priorities, and also help drive our actions and choices as leaders and as a company. Our CSR strategy has significant opportunity to impact one of our key stakeholders, which is our employees, and thus the culture of our internal community. And the culture that we establish internally within our organization is going to impact how we engage externally. And for today's discussion, we're really going to focus on one of the four key areas here on the slide. And that's the first one, because it'll be a sort of an internally focused discussion around our core area focused on diverse leadership, an inclusive culture, and equitable opportunity. So on the next slide, what you'll see is a sampling of the work that we've done in both year 1 and year 2 of the implementation of our DE&I strategy. Our strategy and our approach was and continues to be driven by intentional leadership, focused employee investments, and a pilot strategy for new opportunities. We've chosen to lead our DE&I efforts with a small team, coupled with what I'll just call broad engagement from leaders and employees across the company. It's an inclusive effort, and what it does is it's enabled our ability to have a breadth of sponsorship, really allowing employees from across the company to plug in and be involved. And that has really empowered our workforce. It's enabled our ability to maximize our talent and really has positioned us with the best opportunity to evolve the culture of the company. In year 1, there's a couple highlights here on the slide to the left. Year 1 highlights really include the ability for us to establish a discipline around recurring conversation with our leadership team. We fuel those conversations with a dedicated dashboard and key diversity workforce metrics that we've established. They include, at the bottom of the list, we established a DE&I Net Promoter Score, which we survey for quarterly in our Pulse surveys as part of our strategy. This has fueled some great dialogue. It maintains focus and attention on what's a core issue for the organization. We also implemented inclusive leadership workshops and all employee training. Probably one of the most powerful things we did was launch employee resource groups, or ERGs, which I'll talk about more shortly. For year 2, we really looked to grow our investments and broaden our engagement even further and pilot additional activity. We believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a competitive advantage and can be a competitive advantage for the organization. We've done a lot of benchmarking in year 2. We also audited our workplace practices for best in class. This really led to us to revise several of our employment policies and do a deep dive in some of our staffing workflows across the team. We piloted some diversity pipeline programs and some sourcing partnerships, as well as dedicated development streams for those areas of our workforce that were underrepresented. We used our dashboard and metrics from last year to look at where we have representation gaps in our organization. Simultaneously, then we look at what are some of our organizational challenges in that space and looked for combined solutions to really solve both opportunities. So we're using a solution that will solve a challenge that we have operationally to simultaneously increase the diversity of the talent within the organization. And we've done that by pilot so that we have a proof of concept that we can then export and build upon more broadly. So I thought I would share a couple things, starting on the next slide with what's worked well. There were 5 things that our team highlighted for me to share with all of you here today. The first is really having a defined strategy and framework. This has really helped us drive alignment and support a culture of accountability. It's enabled us to have a means to prioritize resources and investments versus trying to be all things to everybody. It's given us a platform to use to obtain resources, which is very important, and a reason to say not right now to maybe some ideas that have presented that don't align with where we are today. We also utilized a model of broad engagement. I mentioned that on the previous slide, versus relying solely on a centralized team. We took our DE&I strategy and created a portfolio of work streams that allowed different leaders from all areas of the organization, of various team members and employees to plug in. This enabled our ability to leverage really what I would call passion and talent from across the company, create a real positive energy across our workforce, and simultaneously we're providing those employees with development. We're increasing their awareness of what's important to us as an organization. We're fostering additional conversation and driving engagement across the broader company. A great example of this is the third item on the list, which is really harnessing the power and potential of ERGs. If you're not familiar with employee resource groups, I know many organizations are. They're a powerful tool for advancing your DE&I strategy. All of our employee-led groups are guided by an executive sponsor and an HR advisor. The executive sponsor and the HR advisor partner to provide support, assist with advocacy, help with organizational navigation, facilitate access to resources, and just ensure there's a tethering to the organizational strategy. These groups, we started with 4, we now have 7. They collaborate and partner with us on key initiatives. They bring purpose, intentionality, and creativity to our programming. And it's been interesting as we've been bringing Caliber and Newrez together. They've been a powerful lever for us to support cultural integration between the 2 companies. Because you have 2 employee-led groups maybe that are focused on African Americans and people of color, or the Hispanic and Latino community, or women in business, and they're getting together outside of the formal organizational leadership structure to talk about what's important for our company and our employees. I mentioned the pilot program strategy. That's the 4th thing that we would highlight that worked really well. It's enabled us to demonstrate some early impact to the organization. It's been easier for us to get pilot programs up and running. We're usually working with 1 or 2 leadership members as sponsors versus an entire company. So it's easier for us to stand the programs up more quickly, secure investment. Over time, we have a proof of concept that we scale and we broaden our reach. But especially in terms of alternative sourcing strategies and development programs where we have underrepresentation, for example, women in leadership, we've been able to be much more agile through the pilot strategy. The last item that I would share that's worked really well for us is to be able to aggregate data and really paint the picture for where we have areas of opportunity. I'm sure my colleagues will speak to the importance of having data information as well. The data sets that we've used have not only included our dashboard and what our representation across our workforce looks like, but the Net Promoter Score that I mentioned, which we survey employees on quarterly. Simple things such as feedback from our inclusive leader workshops, our all-employee training on unconscious bias and allyship. We use that positive feedback to fund additional training. And it's worked well for us as an organization. On the flip side, on the next slide, I thought I'd share some lessons learned. You know, what is a successful strategy in one organization or one company may not necessarily work in another. But I feel like we all can learn from some things that are takeaways, right, as we continue to grow and evolve and experiment with our strategy. In our first year, we had great dialogue. We really did progress an inclusive culture. The employee feedback and the Net Promoter Score that summarized that for our executive team was great. But we learned a couple things. We learned first and foremost that we had to be intentional and diligent. Because we were in year 1 and now year 2, when we stray from a disciplined approach, our progress is limited. We don't move the needle on representation if we aren't being deliberate. As an example, one area in year 1 that we were very focused and deliberate was on early career pipeline programs to diversify the feeder pools for our workforce, specifically at a management level. We were very focused. We had a defined cadence, a lot of positive energy. We saw a measurable statistical shift, almost 8 to 10 percentage points in the makeup of our workforce. And that was a great accomplishment for our employee community. On the flip side, we also required diverse candidate slates for all of our senior level executive positions. I would say that during some of the more heady days of the business, when we were kind of ripping and running, in some cases we strayed. And when we didn't have the discipline around the requirement, because we were early on, at the end of the year, our representation numbers remain the same. The silver lining is we used our data and dashboards to use this as a business case and illustrate the missed opportunity for us as an organization. And it put us back on track and really reinforced the need for intentional engagement, and it reinforced our need for focus. The other 2 lessons learned that I would share and highlight, the first is to really leverage third-party relationships, both for their scale and their expertise. Our partners that we leveraged gave us a lot of lift, especially early on, and when we wanted to write our strategy, they helped us stand up what we were looking to implement for the organization. Trying to do everything ourselves, even with our internal expertise, really challenged us at a resource level. I'm sure there's lots of companies out there where resources, especially people, are a premium, and that's no different for us. We leveraged a national organization that I would highlight, catalyst.org, for resources, training, and their expertise. But we also leveraged local organizations. We're headquartered here in Dallas, Texas. So we leverage the organizations like the Texas Women's Foundation, our local Economic Leadership Council, but every state has these partnerships and they can be hugely beneficial. The last lesson learned was around having a discipline around communicating strategy, goals, and successes to your stakeholder community. having a disciplined cadence of communications to inform in this space created energy and momentum that we were able to leverage. There were a lot of people across the company that wanted to be involved, but they wanted to be involved in a meaningful way. And if they're not informed, that is more difficult to do. And so by having a great cadence and structure, we were able to really take the energy of a lot of people and channel it into a successful outcome in support of our strategy. So on the next slide, I just thought I'd share some statistics, some of the research that really supports why undertake this effort. What are some of the benefits to investing in the DE&I space? I think that diversity and inclusion are key to really having a healthy business model for your company. I believe that workplace diversity has shifted from a nice to do to a core business strategy that's a competitive differentiator and can be a competitive differentiator for many companies. If the efforts that you undertake are intentional, they're grounded by strategy, they're wrapped up with discipline, and you're focused on driving tangible outcomes, you can move the needle. There's a clear opportunity for impact, and there's numerous stats and research that confirm that inclusive workspaces and workplaces can really maximize the talent, innovation, and productivity of your company. There's a healthy amount of research on this page from McKinsey and Gartner, Deloitte, CEB, all great resources, and they all reinforce that you really can have a differentiator with diversity, inclusion, and equity. And so on the next slide, I'll just sort of close with that statement that inclusive workplaces can really maximize talent that you spend a lot of time recruiting and investing in, as well as innovation and productivity. There's a lot of great research, though. There's a lot of great research out there that goes beyond the financial benefits that DE&I can present to a company. Diversity is more than good for the financial performance of your business. It's also a talent issue. If you want to be an industry leader, whatever industry you're in, you need to be able to tap into the full talent pool that's available to you. And if you only tap into a segment of the talent available or don't enable their success in staying with your organization, chances are you likewise are only accessing a portion of your marketplace and a portion of your customer base. And so while the topic of our collective presentation today is to share how we're doing it, I'm going to encourage you to do it. And, investing in diversity, inclusion, and equity can bring so many tangible rewards to your companies and your teams. I hope the information I've shared about our experience at Caliber is helpful to you, along with the insights that'll be shared by Patricia and Charles today. I know we'll have time for questions at the close, but I'll also just share my contact information. Please feel free to reach out at any time, especially on LinkedIn. It's a great way to connect. And I would welcome the opportunity to network further and share more learnings. So thank you. I really appreciate the time today.
Helen, thank you so much for all that incredible information and what Caliber has done, how they have moved the needle, as you say, which is what we all want to do. And I hope everyone that's attending will actually hear the commitment and the passion that our speakers are bringing to this, and that you're taking some notes and have some questions, because it really is an important initiative that we all need to be engaged in, and which is why I am so excited to bring on our next speaker, who is Patricia Sazo. Patricia serves as Funding Shield's Senior Vice President of Technology, Operations, Integrations. Patricia has more than 15 years leadership experience in the mortgage lending space, and previously worked at major banking and financial institutions and financial technology firms. Patricia specializes in organizational technology, transformation, software systems, implementation, migration, and integration. She has extensive knowledge and experience in digital platforms and automation. Patricia is a proud supporter and dedicates her time to Cal State University Long Beach Educational Equity Services, and their mission is about empowering university students from economically desperate and underserved communities to promote and pursue mortgage fintech careers. And on that note, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Patricia Zazo. Patricia.
Thank you, Rosalind. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patricia Suazo. I work at Funding Shield, a digital and automated title and fraud prevention service. In our organization, we proudly foster and support DE&I. As their ambassador, I'm here to help shed some light on what we're doing as a nimble, dynamic, ever-growing fintech organization. But before we proceed, I'd like to thank CMBA and the DE&I Committee for this opportunity to share our strategy, our outlook, and the way that we nurture our workforce to make it more diverse and inclusive all around. There we go. Thank you. So first and foremost, I'm going to change the beat here a little bit. We are a fintech company that is growing at an exponential rate. What does that mean? With the support of Ike Suri and Adam Chaudhry, the president, we are here to promote diversity and inclusiveness within the organization itself, as well as how we're going to impact the industry. Currently today, we see a gap, a huge gap with our workforce and being able to bring on talent of diverse natures and backgrounds. And I'm not talking about, Hispanic, Asian communities. I'm talking well-rounded, full-on, whether or not it's from disabilities, LGBTQ. We look at it from a holistic standpoint. As startup companies and fintech companies are growing ever so quickly, and we're always evolving to basically, chase the next biggest thing, we have to understand and bring it upon ourselves to be able to create strategic alliances, advocacy, and programmatic development to be able to empower internally our teams, as well as our consumers and clients in the mortgage and tech industry. Next slide, here we go. So what can we do to help embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, where are we falling short, right? The reason why we're having this conversation to begin with is because there are opportunities to be able to bring in diverse talents. Why? Because our industry is growing, right? We need to capitalize on that, but we can't be exclusive. We have to be inclusive. So with that said, the tech industry is still struggling with the diversity and inclusion, right? In Silicon Valley itself, 71% of employees are male or defined as male, where only 29% are its counterpart as female or identified as females. When you look at it from a perspective of being able to create percentages, which we literally don't like to do, because at the end of the day, we're not just numbers, we're people. And what we want to do is have everyone be invited to play, to be a dynamic workforce together. But as you can see, we have 23% that are white, 8 Asian, Latinos is 7%, Latinos is 8%, and 7% African American. What does that mean? Well, for the future, it seems a little bleak, because if we're trying to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as us from an organizational standpoint, providing a service, we need to ensure who we're going to be actually servicing, right? Who are we going to provide these products to? How can we empower our consumers without knowing and bringing in that workforce and helping us grow and evolve? It is my experience managing the technology development team at Funding Shield is that we are transforming the way that we are creating our products, we're developing our products. And how do we do that? By incremental changes. I cannot take on the whole world, but what we can do is define those strategies to be able to move forward and to be able to provide those products and the latest technology that will not only help build and define the future from a fintech standpoint, but also be able to provide the keys to our consumers and to our borrowers and to our potential homeowners, the technology to be able to move forward, right? And so what does that mean, technology to move forward? Well, as you know, we are a fintech company, and we also solution and we prevent title and wire fraud. The Hispanic, African American population has been growing, and their purchase is basically exponentially becoming more and more in the home buyer realm. So what do we want to do? We want to educate. We want to be able to give them the tools to ensure that they're being protected. How do we do that? We have to go ahead and create outreach programs. And with outreach programs, we're able to give them the ability to succeed as well as protect themselves. Next, I really like this. Everyone likes to have fun. So I want everyone in the webinar to go ahead and take, some notes, a piece of paper and pencil. And I'd like to understand diversity, equity, inclusion begins with fun. What does that mean? Foundation of DE&I. So everyone, if you guys can go ahead and do 2 bullet points. What would be your foundation for DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion? Right? It's the fundamentals. It's the foundation of the growth of your organization. What can you do? Unity within the industry. This is a perfect platform where we can go ahead and share with the industry and how we unify together to understand and appreciate that we do have an ability and an opportunity to expand our diversity within the industry. And lastly, N for nurture our workforce. As leaders, we must listen. Being a leader that starts dictating things that need to happen eventually comes to a downfall. So why not create a dynamic workforce by creating a sense of nurturing environment? And what that means is that providing tools, platforms, empowerment for your organization, for the actual workers themselves to have a voice, to be able to have that trust and respect from a mutual standpoint, and be able to accept this 360-degree coaching that we love to have here and we embrace at Funding Shield. Nurturing is a very big place within our organization. We provide our interns tools, training, one-on-one mentorship to be able to have them feel empowered and also bring on the confidence to keep going forward, whether they want to stay within Funding Shield or pursue another opportunity. But our bottom line and our goal is to be able to nurture the new generation of our workforce to be confident and well respected. So we've talked about workforce, we've talked about nurturing. I'm going to share a little bit about our internal organizational approach. We've already kind of discussed a little bit about defining the company culture, ensuring that includes actionable diversity, equity, and inclusion. I've been very lucky to have a partnership with California State University Long Beach, being able to provide my mentoring services, because historically speaking, Latina females do not usually go into technology. So I do have the ability to go and speak to the students that may not understand what it means. Not everything has to be in development. There's also project management, operations. So we here try to provide our services and mentoring to ensure that we have these actionable items in place and do this outreach for our communities. Inclusion, it's ongoing. It's like playing dodgeball. You want to get picked, right? So it's not just a one-off training where you can go ahead and go through slides and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We want to empower our workforce. We want to hear their ideas. We want to make sure that they feel that they're part of the team. So inclusion is always ongoing. We support our daily operations call. We have our fun Fridays. People come in jerseys. We make sure that they are heard. We want to make sure that these are our family members. We spend over 8 hours, 10 hours a day having to work together, learn to respect our differences. This inclusion is what makes the fabric of not a great organization, but an exceptional organization when we can call ourselves family. The next is helping individuals thrive. I am a proud supporter of Team Funding Shield. I give my many thanks to Adam Chaudhry and Ike Suri, because they've helped me thrive in this organization. What does that mean? It means that we have empathetic, pragmatic leadership behind our workforce. And with that, we also branch out into the community, creating partnerships and alliances to be able to show and share that we are one in this community, that we share and foster the growth of inclusion as well as diversity. Now, the next bullet point, growth, talent, recruiting. I think all organizations have their benchmarks. They have initiatives behind it. To be honest with you, we see that growing and recruiting talent comes from within, as well as seeing the potential for growth in those candidates that come to us. We are very lucky. We have numerous amounts of interns that are knocking on our door to be able to have the ability to share this experience with them. And with that purpose, I believe developing the younger talent so that they can also bring that on when they become executives is very important. This all comes back to nurturing as well as empowerment. And then one last thing I'd like to say on this slide is being able to foster the sense of connection and belonging and community and guidance. A lot of times we have certain things where people have gone through in their lives. For example, I'd like to share my experience. My parents were immigrants, first generation, myself, college student, pretty lost. And if it wasn't for the guidance and the support and being able to provide a hand, and not just that, but the sense of listening and understanding helped me go ahead and go over those obstacles. One by one, each challenge was knocked down because there was support and guidance through the time that I started my education until here I am now. So I'd like to make sure that everyone understands that we're here to rise up together, and being able to provide that guidance and that connection and that sense of community will bring forward basically that excellence in the organization to make sure that you have your diverse set of workforce as well as the inclusivity. Now switching gears, we're going from an external point of view, right? External point of view, we do have outreach programs. We go ahead and outreach to our partners, you know, from CMBA, MBA, all these organizations, we all help each other out. And we like to promote our vision and our mission to be able to sustain not just our services, but also make sure that we provide education and advocacy to those consumers that are in minority or underprivileged areas. We have recruitment within underserved communities, which we're doing every quarter. We go in, we look at our interns, we get to know who they are. We want to know where they're coming from. These are okay questions to ask. Why? Because we want to include them. When we become detached from emotion, when we become detached from the nurturing concepts of being able to empower, then your organization is at a standstill. We have to evolve and grow. And by evolving and growing, we must outreach to all communities, and also from an equitable standpoint, we need to reach out to those underserved communities. Why? Because we want to advocate, we want to empower, and we want to see them succeed. We also have advocating our mission, which is kind of what I just spoke about, as well as socialization of diversification. I mean, we have social media outlets that we didn't have before 15 years ago, right? So what does this do? As an organization, we must use our media outlets to make sure that we're advocating, to make sure that we provide the information that they need at their fingertips. If we are not vocal, they will not know. So it's very simple. We must proceed by using and leveraging socialization of digital platforms and promote your brand and promote the fact that, yes, we are embracing DE&I, and these are the concepts that we are executing to do so. And then lastly is equal opportunity and inclusion. We have set standards. We do have data-driven results. We look at our products every day. We're saying, hey, there's a problem here. This MSA seems that, you know, we still see a little bit more of a fraud prevention tactic that we should be actually marketing to that area. Those are data-driven results that we're looking at, not just from, you know, bottom line ROI, but we're also looking at where do these communities need help. And basically, we've actually created something to outreach to the community called Consumer Wire Account Verification Services. There's a tremendous amount of fraud that is happening in lower income areas. Why is that? Because they're not being advocated to. They're not being sent information or support to ensure that they're being protected. So Funding Shield has gone above and beyond to be able to socialize this particular platform to engage the underserved communities. And as we're partnering with lending and real estate organizations, we're ensuring that home buying and education in regards to scamming, wire fraud, you name it, cyber attacks, this is a platform where basically I can take my phone, I can go ahead and ensure that if I'm a first-time home buyer, I will be protected. And this is a service that is first in the market. And we hope that this will be taken advantage of as we promote it to our underserved communities. And last but not least, I just wanted to go ahead and give you kind of a full tour of how we are gauging our DE&I through diversity outreach, outreach management, through community colleges, universities, professional platforms. We also have targeted outreach dedicated to leveraging our social media platforms. And last but not least, we're going to go ahead and find our key performance metrics. So we track, we socialize, we record, and we move the benchmark, and we move the needle incrementally, little by little, because in one day, you cannot move mountains. It takes a village, it takes time, and it takes perseverance to make sure that this is a successful part of our organization. Thank you.
Well, Patricia, I thank you for all that incredible information. I hope once again the audience was taking notes as you encouraged them to do. Have fun with their diversity, inclusion, and equity platforms. And we thank you for all that information. And now I am so happy to introduce to you our last but not least speaker, and Charles R. Lowry Jr. Charles brings over 20 years of mortgage, housing, and advocacy experience to his current position as Director of Legislative Policy and External Affairs for New American Funding, a growing independent mortgage banking company. Most recently, he served as the Director of State Regulatory Relations for Ocwen Financial Corporation, where he interacted with state regulatory representatives and industry groups by forging strong relationships and ensuring effective communication channels with state-based stakeholders. Previously, Charles served for 5 years in different roles at the NAACP, which included interim senior director of the National Economic Department, where he managed the role of the NAACP in the economic area. And he also served as Director of Fair Lending and Inclusion, where he oversaw compliance with the NAACP's responsible mortgage lending principles and coordinated the role of the NAACP regarding national issues in the mortgage lending and consumer financial services area and arenas that he worked in. And on that note, it is my pleasure to present to you Charles Lowry, who's going to bring to us what New American Funding is doing in this space. Charles?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rosalind. I'm so happy to be here with you. I want to thank you. I want to thank Ian. I want to thank Susan and California MBA for having New American Funding as a part of this program. I like the order of the program because although we're getting close to the end of the hour, it was so great to hear from Helen and from Patricia and what their companies and organizations are doing around the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Helen's comments were very well received by me and I thought very thoughtful. Patricia's comments as well. Patricia ended her conversation talking about sort of that external work that comes with one's company's DEI work. And that leads right in naturally to our work at New American Funding. And that's what I'll concentrate on for you all today that are listening. First off, New American Funding is an independent mortgage lender that funds $2.5 billion per month. We have a servicing portfolio of over 210,000 loans for approximately $55 billion. We have 173 nationwide locations and about 4,500 employees. Our company is a 2021 Mortgage Professional America 5-star retail lender and has made Inc. 5000's list of fastest growing companies in America 7 times. We are proud to offer state-of-the-art career training and provide our branch loan officers with innovative technologies to streamline the mortgage process. So with that background, we'll go right into the slide presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, let me just see if I have the ability to. No, yes, I do. I think I have the ability to move the slides forward. The New American Dream Initiative started in 2016. It's an initiative that combines hard work, integrity, team effort, and continuous learning to increase the rate of Black homeownership in America. Our purpose is to provide racial equity, build consumer confidence through the home buying education, accessibility to credit, and mortgage industry career opportunities to the Black community. The program started in 2016 with Patty Arviello, our co-founder and president. And this is a very detailed slide, but it gives you an idea of the work that Patty has done through the years as a founder for New American Funding. She created and established the Latino Focus program, and again established the New American Dream Initiative in 2016. Both programs have gone just gangbusters in terms of really providing increased opportunities for minority home ownership. And I am a senior advisor to this program. I'm not sure I really needed this slide to show you all who I am, but as Rosalind said, I have a background in consumer advocacy and state government relations, and in predatory lending and all the different aspects from the advocacy side of housing. What I'm excited about is to work with a company like New American Funding that is actually doing the work to increase minority home ownership. So when we talk about the DE&I perspective, we're talking about how do we grow and increase Black home ownership. And one thing that Patty points out quite clearly is that we must have people in our company that mirror the communities they serve. And this gives you an idea of our Black loan officers that we have for our New American Dream Initiative, our leadership from the community lending side, our talent acquisition side, from our branch managers and others that serve in leadership for the New American Dream Initiative. Our programs are based upon where we're located. And as you know, as you can see, we're located in 5 of the 5 states with the highest growth among Black homeowners. And that includes California, Arizona, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. As I mentioned before, one of the great things about working with New American Funding and our New American Dream Initiative follows up what Helen and Patricia have talked about, is really reaching out, serving the community. How do we do that as a mortgage lender? That's increasing our loans to Black borrowers. In the last year, 2020, 12.4% of our total home purchase loan volume was to Black borrowers. This was 85% more compared to the industry percentage of 6.7%. So that shows that New American Funding, percentage-wise, is doing almost twice as much as the industry on average. That's speaking about New American Dream. There are other information about Latino Focus that shows that we're doing even better with the Latino community. So again, from a DEI perspective, we're trying to take all of these, build this up internally, but then really project it outward in terms of making loans to the minority community. And an effort to move that forward as well is our commitment to lending $20 billion in new mortgages to Black borrowers over the next 7 years. I believe we're committed to lending $25 billion to the Latino community over the next, I believe, 3 to 5 years. The Black home ownership issue is one that we know about. That the 44% of the total U.S. population is Black in terms of home ownership. We know that that number has stagnated. It's very low, continues to be low compared to white home ownership. we view this opportunity. We see that Black home ownership will grow by 12% by 2030, which means there is a market for growth with Black home ownership. There are some key economic indicators here. I won't bother you and waste your time with this, but it is important to note that age, income, labor force, and buying power are all characteristics and information that we look at in terms of growing our base of lending to the Black community. The challenges we face, and as many know, in terms of the Black community, in terms of income, debt to income ratio, denial of mortgages due to DTI, and the also low credit score problems are challenges that the Black community faces. But we see opportunities there. The National Association of Realtors shows that the motivation of Black home buyers, the desire to change their status, and the fact that there are many single Black women that really are interested in becoming home buyers gives us hope that we know we're on the right track in terms of increasing minority home ownership in the Black community as well as the Latino community. So we would like to just end I would like to end my presentation and to again thank Rosalind, Ian, and Patricia. And Susan, that we are happy to be a part of this program. I know that the hour is getting late. There's only a few more minutes left, Rosalind, but I'm just glad to be a part of this program and also to work with Helen and with Patricia and show that the DEI perspective from New American Funding is to really move outward and really see what we can do to really increase minority home ownership and increase our loan officers to mirror the communities they serve. Rosalind?
Well, thank you so much, Charles, for that information that you shared and about the incredible movement that you are making there at New American Funding with the New American Dream to Black home ownership, but across all the boards there that are being served across the nation. And that is something that I think as we come to the end of this, and we're going to give an opportunity for you to ask questions. We don't have that much time left, but if you have any questions of this panel, this is your opportunity to put it into that area of the webinar where you can put your questions forth. But I want to, as we wait to see if we have any questions right quick, want to encourage each of you to take all of the information that you learned today, from Helen to Patricia to Charles, knowing that this is an area, some of the takeaways that I got is that helping people to be confident and feel respected, lifting people up. Everyone basically wants to be able to do that. Fannie Mae constantly has done studies year after year showing that Americans want to be homeowners. So the opportunity is clearly there for us to help. And also how we are building our internal employment labor forces so that those communities are represented and that we can even do more work. And that as we move forward, I want you to know that the California MBA is here to help to assist you in this effort. We've got on the website for the California MBA a diversity, equity, and inclusion portal for you to go to. And the way that you get to that is when you go into that website, go to where it says membership, go to committees, click on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're still a work in progress, but you will see some of the resources and information that we're already making available to you to access. We have our podcasts that we now have available. And so anyone that wants to, that's listening to us, and you want to participate on the podcast, or you may want to be a future speaker in one of our webinars that we're going to be doing, please reach out to us and let us know. We will be glad to have you, and you're always welcome also as members of the California MBA to come join us on the committee and help us as we lift people up. I thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, we only have a couple of minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this back over to Susan. And do we have any questions that can people have, Susan?
Yes, actually, great job, everyone. We did have one question. Helen, it was for you. There was a resource online that you recommended, Helen, and someone wanted that to be repeated, or if you want to put it in the chat or just announce it now.
Yeah, I'm happy to put it in the chat as well. I think they're referring to catalyst.org. It's a national organization that advocates. Initially, they were founded to advocate for workplaces that work for women, but they have since broadened their efforts to also include all forms of diversity. I shouldn't say forms, all aspects of diversity. They have great research that's available if you're trying to build a business case in your organization. They have great online training tools. They have a set of resources that are free if you visit their website, and then you can also sign up to become a member and have access to additional components of their library. So I do highly recommend them. They've been terrific partners for me now here at my third company. And so I have a long history of partnership with those folks.
Great. Great. Okay, catalyst.org. All right. If you have any other questions, as Rosalind had mentioned, please post those in the questions dialog box. We can still take a few more minutes and grab other questions from folks. Wanted to let you all know today's presentation was recorded. We will be posting it on the committee website that Rosalind had mentioned earlier from our cmba.com website under committees and the DE&I committee page. I also encourage you to make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, and there's our link, because you will see not only invitations for future webinars, but also when our DE&I podcasts are aired, which is going to be every 2 weeks. And we've got some great guests coming up and some great information to share in under the title of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think that wraps it up for questions for today. Again, thank you all presenters. You did a fantastic job. Greatly appreciate you being a part of today's webinar. And Ian, I will turn it over to you to close us out.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Another great program. Again, no program is perfect and everything is a work in progress. And you can start big, you can start small, but as long as you start, we're moving the ball forward.
That's right. Yep, that's right.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.